Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. In Afghanistan, 17 pro-government fighters have been killed in a Taliban attack in the northern Takhar province. Provincial officials said 4 others were wounded in the attack on the forces' base in the Khaja Bahauddin district. Officials said additional forces were dispatched after the attack and the Taliban were driven back. They said the forces were led by Malik Ahmad Tatar, a feared commander locally known as a ruthless enemy of the Taliban. Claiming the responsibility, the Taliban said 21 soldiers, including a commander, were killed in the attack. Meanwhile, Kabul says it will disclose a list of negotiators for the intra-Afghan talks after the US and Taliban sign a peace deal. The talks between the Taliban and Washington are on hold since the 11th of December attack on Bagram Air Base. A statement from the Afghan presidential palace said the delegation will represent the government of Afghanistan. Deputy spokesperson Durrani Javed Waziri said Kabul will only hold a dialogue if the Taliban show they are ready to talk with the Afghan people. Pakistan says the Organization of Islamic Cooperation must raise its voice over the violations of human rights in occupied Kashmir. Addressing a press conference in Multan, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said the OIC should also speak out about anti-Muslim law in India. Qureshi said Pakistan is aware of its responsibilities and Indian designs will be unveiled before the global community. He said India is engaging in continuous ceasefire violations along the line of control, and the fencing on the LOC has also been cut at 5 places. The foreign minister said India itself is divided over the newly enacted citizenship law and it would be struck down by Indian courts. He said 25 people have been killed and hundreds have been arrested since protests against the law erupted on 11th of December. Vice President of European Parliament Fabio Massimo Castaldo says people are suffering in occupied Kashmir due to India's human rights violations. In an interview, Castaldo said India should start a dialogue with Pakistan on all the disputes. The Vice President said he's ready to mediate between Pakistan and India if the two countries agree to it. He urged India to reconsider the controversial Citizenship Act to preserve multiculturalism. Castaldo said Pakistan armed forces has ended terrorism in the country to a great extent. In India, violent anti-government protests against the country's new citizenship law have had a major impact on the tourism industry. Officials said about 200,000 tourists cancelled or postponed their trip to Taj Mahal in the past 2 weeks. The officials at the Taj Mahal said there has been a 60% decline in visitor footfalls this December. They said despite the assurance of security, most local and international tourists have decided to stay away. Meanwhile, managers in luxury hotels around the Taj Mahal said last-minute cancellations have further dampened business. The Agra Tourism Development Foundation said the government's internet suspension has also taken a heavy toll on the industry. Ukraine and the Russian-backed separatists have completed the final phase of a prisoner swap in a bid to end their 5-year war. The exchange of prisoners took place at the Myrskoye checkpoint in the Donbass region. The Ukrainian presidency said Kiev received 76 captives, while separatist officials said the self-proclaimed Donbass republics took in 124 prisoners. The exchange comes 3 months after Kiev and Moscow exchanged 35 prisoners each in a step towards peace. Over 13,000 people have been killed since Moscow-backed separatists launched a bid for independence in 2014 in eastern Ukraine. U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien says the situation in North Korea is dangerous and concerning. In an interview, O'Brien said the U.S. wants North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to fulfill his commitment to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. He said the U.S. will take action if North Korea tests a long-range or nuclear missile. The statement comes ahead of a year-long deadline and set by Pyongyang for Washington to make concessions in stalled nuclear talks. In Yemen, 9 people have been killed and several others injured in a blast on a military parade in southern Al-Dahlia town. In a statement on Twitter, the southern forces controlling Al-Dahlia accused Houthi rebels of firing a missile. They said 3 members of the Houthi militia have been arrested near the bombing site. There is no comment yet from the rebels who control the northern part of the town. Earlier this week, 17 people were killed in shelling at a busy market in Sada region controlled by Houthis. The Houthis attributed the shelling to the Saudi-led coalition and pledged the victims would be avenged. Moving on to Iran, which has accused France of interference in the case of an Iranian French academic detained in the Islamic Republic. In a statement, the foreign ministry said Fariba Adil-Kaha is an Iranian national and faces security-related charges. Spokesperson Abbas Mousavi said the French foreign ministry's request has no legal basis. Earlier, Paris summoned the Iranian envoy over the detention of Adil-Kaha and another academic, Roland Marshall. Paris demanded their immediate release. Meanwhile, Tehran said an Australian academic, Kylie Moore Gilbert, who was jailed for espionage, must serve her sentence. Moreover, Iran has summoned Kuwait's envoy in Tehran to protest the hosting of an anti-Iranian meeting by its officials. In a statement, Iran's foreign ministry accused Kuwaiti officials of meeting the representative of a terrorist group. The statement didn't name the alleged group. It said these kinds of actions are clear interference in Tehran's internal affairs. Iran and Kuwait have had relatively good relations in recent years, despite tensions between Tehran and other Gulf Arab states. Turkey says it will not vacate its 12 observation posts in Syria's rebel-held province of Idlib. Defense Minister Hulusi Akar said Turkey suspects the Sochi agreement reached with Russia and expects Moscow to abide by it. He said Ankara will carry out its mission of ensuring the ceasefire stays in place. Akar said Turkish troops at these points have been ordered to respond without hesitation if attacked. He said innocent Syrians have suffered a lot already and the regime shouldn't be allowed to make them suffer anymore. Regarding the deployment in Libya, he said the army is ready to protect Turkish interests whether at home or abroad. Meanwhile, Turkey has warned against attempts to create a Syria-like crisis in Libya. Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu said if Libya becomes like Syria, other countries in the region will also suffer. He said every effort should be made to prevent Libya from being divided and sliding into chaos. Çavuşoğlu said Ankara only deals with legitimate governments. He stressed that the military and security deal signed with Tripoli is important. In Libya, forces affiliated with the UN-recognized Libyan Government of National Accord have launched a new attack on Khalifa Haftar's forces south of Tripoli. A GNA official claimed progress had been made and said that LNA has been defeated in Tripoli. He said soldiers from the United Arab Emirates and Russia were fighting alongside the LNA. Meanwhile, a Libyan state oil firm is considering the closure of its western Zawiya port and evacuating staff from the refinery. Zawiya is Libya's biggest functioning refinery, serving Tripoli as well as the regions in the west and the south of the country. Haftar's forces have been trying to take Tripoli since April. In the U.S., New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo has declared the stabbing attack at a rabbi's home an act of terrorism. The attacker fled after stabbing 5 people during a Hanukkah celebration at a rabbi's home in New York State. The governor said domestic terrorists carried out the act to instill fear among the people. He said the attackers are motivated by hate and should be treated like terrorists for perpetrating mass attacks. The rampage follows days of increased tensions over anti-Semitic assaults. Last year in Pittsburgh, a white supremacist killed 11 people in the deadliest attack against the Jewish community in the U.S. More stories to follow, but right after a short break. Welcome back. In the U.S., 2 people have been killed and 7 others injured during a drive-by shooting at a music video set in Houston. Police said people were in the parking lot of an office complex filming a rap video when they were ambushed by shooters. It said 2 people were pronounced dead at the scene and the injured were sent to hospital. An investigation into the incident is underway. Moreover, the U.S. suffered more mass killings in 2019 than any other year on record. A database compiled by the Associated Press U.S. said today a Northeastern University recorded 41 incidents and 211 deaths. The findings reveal that there were more mass killings in the current year than any year going back to at least the 70s. Researchers said of all the cases this year, 33 involved firearms. The deadliest in 2019 were the killings of 12 people in Virginia Beach in May and 22 in El Paso in August. In central Mexico, 6 people have been killed and 5 others wounded in a shootout. Authorities said the attack took place in Uriangato, a city in the state of Guanajuato. In a statement, the mayor's office said police initially found 5 dead bodies. One of those wounded died after being brought to a nearby clinic. The office said it asked state authorities to ramp up security with 60 members of the public security forces. Police also recovered a discarded firearm and several bullet casings from the crime scene. Mexico's government says Guanajuato has recorded over 3,000 deaths between January and November. "50 people have died in Bangladesh in the last 2 months as a cold wave continues to sweep across the country. The country's lowest temperature this year was recorded at 4.5 degrees Celsius yesterday. Health officials said 17 people died of acute respiratory infection and 33 from diarrhea and other diseases. They said hospitals have been crowded with people suffering from influenza, dehydration, and pneumonia. Bangladesh's Met Office said the cold snap with chilly winds and dense fog is likely to continue for a few more days. In the Philippines, the death toll from the Typhoon Fawn has risen to 41, while 12 people remain missing. The storm left the Philippines on Saturday after ransacking central Visayas as officials continue to assess the damage. Rescue officials said the typhoon has affected over 1.5 million people, as tens of thousands are still in temporary shelters. Officials said over 260,000 homes were damaged by 200 km/h winds. The government estimates the damage to agriculture and infrastructure to be worth $21 million. It is the year's 7th typhoon to hit the Southeast Asian country. In Japan, police have found the remains of at least 5 people in a wooden boat that washed up on the coast of the country's Sado Islands. A Coast Guard official said police have found 2 human heads. Chinnen said the remains of the bodies are partially skeletonized. Chinnen said the boat is suspended to be from North Korea, as the sides are painted with the red Korean numbers and letters. In Fiji, 2 people were killed as Cyclone Sarai battered the South Pacific nation with strong winds and heavy rain. Authorities said over 2,500 people have been moved to 70 evacuation centers. The Category 2 tropical cyclone is not expected to make landfall in Fiji, but the Weather Service has issued storm and flood warnings for the parts of the country. The Met Service said the cyclone is expected to have average winds of 110 km/h with momentary gusts to 150 km/h. Thousands of families have been affected by flooding from heavy rains in western Kenya. Government officials said the town of Kisumu was flooded by torrents that began on Christmas Eve. Authorities said over 6,000 families faced displacement. They have lost most of their belongings. Locals said that they have no dry place to sleep and fear that the flooding could worsen. Government agencies have urged residents to move as soon as possible to a rescue center set up at a local secondary school. In Australia, tens of thousands of residents in southwestern Victoria state have been told to evacuate amid worsening bushfire conditions. Officials warned that Monday would be a day of danger as temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius and strong winds can fan the flames. More than 100 fires are continuing to burn across Australia. The fires have destroyed 4 million hectares in 5 states since September. At least 8 people have been killed in bushfires so far. Moving on to Egypt, where 28 people have been killed in 2 separate road crashes, one in Port Said city and the other east of Cairo. Security officials say 24 others were injured. Several of them tourists and some are in critical condition. In Port Said, a minibus carrying garment factory workers collided with a truck, killing 22. The accident came only hours after 2 buses carrying tourists collided with a truck near Cairo. Health officials said 2 Malaysian women and an Indian man were among those killed, along with 3 Egyptians. NASA has revealed its latest Mars rover designed to seek out signs of life on the red planet. It will be used in the first of the 2-part mission in July 2020, collecting samples to analyze them back on Earth. More in this report.
The rover, which remains unnamed for now, was shown to the media under strict guidelines. Members of the press weren't allowed to wear makeup or perfume and had to wear the same white suits worn by NASA engineers.
So what we do in this room is we make sure we have a strict clean room protocol so that we are not contaminating our vehicles, so that we can preserve the science that we are interested in learning about.
The rover will be sent to Mars Jezero crater, which scientists believe was once a great lake. Here, the rover will pull samples from the ground, which will eventually be brought back to Earth in the mission's second phase.
We're carrying about 40 tubes on the vehicle. We're going to collect 20 to 30 probably for return. Once we have a sufficient set, we'll put them down on the ground. And another mission, which we hope to launch in 2026, will come, land on the surface, collect those samples, and put them into a rocket, basically.
The rover will eventually be named in early 2020. NASA's previous 4 Mars rovers were named Sojourner, Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity.
The British Backpackers Society has declared Pakistan the world's 3rd highest potential adventure destination for 2020. The society made the announcement after counting votes from adventure travel experts from around the world. In a post, the society called Pakistan a travel gem with otherworldly beauty, with unforgettable road trips and hospitality at its core. It said besides offering a stunning landscape in the north, the country offers a rich culture, tradition and history in bulk. The society said with a new e-visa system and reforms, the Pakistani government has put tourism at the front and center of its policy. And that's all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.